The 2020 BRDC British Formula 3 Championship is in action at long last here at Oulton Park. 2 races already in the books and another 2 coming your way this afternoon live. And if yesterday's close quarters action is anything to go by, then I think we're in for another cracking season. Last year we had a record number of race winners throughout the year. And if you scan down the entry list for the 2020 season, there are at least an equal number of potential race winners, maybe more. We've already had 2 different winners from our first 2 races of the weekend. Can we go 3 from 3 in race number 3? Well, we are about to find out, because the cars have just departed the grid on their green flag lap ahead of their third 13-lap race of the weekend, although actually the first race yesterday didn't quite get to the full 13 laps because we had a fairly lengthy safety car period which did rather truncate the race. But the grid flashing through the bottom of your screen now is based on the second fastest laps from qualifying. So Louis Foster has pole ahead of Caleb Frederick, Nazim Asman and Ulysse de Pauw on row 2 ahead of Ollie Clark and Guillaume Pesotto. Then it's Bart Horston, the Australian, alongside Kieran Dewis sharing the 4th row of the grid. And then Nico Barone, who was one of the standout performers last year, down in 9th place with Rhys Ushijua alongside him, rounding out the top 10. Then it's the Thai driver, Saskorn Chaimankal, with Kush Maini making a welcome return to British motorsport, the Indian driver, on the 6th row. Then we've got Josh Skelton, another Formula 4 graduate. There are many on the grid this year, alongside Manaf Hijawi on row 7. Benjamin Pedersen is back for another season of Formula 3 competition. He's 15th on the grid, and Piers Pryor won the reversed grid second race yesterday afternoon. Josh Mason ended the first race of the day yesterday in the Old Hall barriers, and the team have done a very, very good job to get the Land Racing car back out on track with all 4 wheels fully attached now, and he will be starting from the back of the grid. So yeah, as I say, the 2 races that we had yesterday for the British Formula 3 Championship. The first one was won by Kieran Dewis with Ulysse de Pauw second and Nazim Asman third, and it was one of those sort of typical Formula 3 races at Oulton Park where it is quite tricky to overtake. However, there were a few time penalties applied to people of note. Caleb Frederick finished at the front of the field but was given a 10-second time penalty for a false start. So too Louis Foster, who finished second on the road, and Manaf Hijawi, who was in the midfield. He ended up classified 16th after race 1 because of that start line penalty. Race number 2, the reverse grid race, as you'd expect, had a very different look to the front, with Piers Pryor winning, Kush Maini second and Bart Horston in 3rd position. So we will probably see a result that is a little more akin to the first race result in this one, because the grid, as I said, set by the second fastest time from qualifying, and it sees Louis Foster back on pole position, looking to make good on his promise from yesterday. He was very disappointed with the way that his Saturday panned out, but he's got another 2 races today to try and get things back on track. So round number 3 then of the 2020 BRDC British Formula 3 Championship here in the sunshine at Oulton Park is about to get underway. The drivers staring intently at the starting gantry, which lights up red. The lights go out and it's a bad start from Louis Foster from pole position. Caleb Frederick will get the advantage on the run down towards Old Hall Corner. Slotting through into 2nd position is Nazim Asman, and it's side by side for 3rd. Ulysse de Pauw goes around the outside of Louis Foster as well. A terrible start for the pole man. That is really rubbing salt to the wounds after his disappointing Saturday. He's down to 4th place already, having started on pole position. On the inside there goes Piers Pryor, trying to make ground from towards the back of the field. They're all safely through though, that's the main thing. No banging of wheels, no broken front wings. Everyone's still in the race, but look at the way that race leader Caleb Frederick is already checking out. 2nd place we're following there, Nazim Asman, everyone queuing up behind him. Round the outside goes Guillaume Pesotto there in the number 99 Carlin car. And then they head out of Shell and down towards the British chicane for the first time. Bit of understeer there for Nazim Asman in 2nd place. The front tyres maybe not quite up to full temperature just yet. A crest hilltop drop downhill, single file at the front of the field. A move being attempted there by, that looked like Kieran Dewis trying to get through on the run down the hill. Didn't quite work though. Kieran Dewis started 8th. He's made some good progress here on the opening half a lap or so. And that is the time to do it, because once you get around this first lap or so, it does become rather challenging to find a way through. And so the drivers know how important the start of the race can be. Field looks very, very good though as it turns through Druid. Number 24 there is Benjamin Pedersen for Double R, who is definitely further down the grid than you would have expected from one of the regular frontrunners last season. Bart Horston there coming under pressure in the number 50 car and trying to get past him, trying everything to get past him there as they cross the start-finish line. That's Ollie Clark, isn't he? Oliver Clark right behind him, all over the rear wing of Bart Horston's car coming over to the elite, but to no avail. He almost had the inside line, but Bart Horston was able to close the door on the number 62 car, the hill speed car of Oliver Clark. The hill speed car's been quick this weekend, but maybe just not quite able to get the track position that they need to really challenge for podiums. Now Oliver Clark under pressure as he goes down back straight there from Nico Verone. There's a bit of a queue forming here behind Bart Horston. They all file their way back through the Shell hairpin once again. Josh Skelton we caught a glimpse of there, the number 43 Chris Dittman racing car. This is the battle right now then. Horston, Clark, Verone, Pisotto, Skelton, Chimon, Cole, Maney, Piers Pryor gained 3 positions on the first lap. He was one of the biggest movers at the start of the race. You can see him there with the white car and the pink wings and the pink helmet. There he is, turns through the corner. Car number 22, Piers Pryor, yesterday's reversed grid race winner. His first target in this race, or his next target in this race, is the Indian driver Kush Maini, whose brother Arjun actually raced as high as the FIA Formula 2 Championship a couple of years ago before choosing, as many drivers do, to pursue a career in sports cars. Kush Maini, though, very much still on the single-seater racing ladder, and it's nice to see him back here on British shores. He finished second place in that reverse grid race yesterday, which was a fairly static race in the end. This one, though, looks a little closer for the time being. There's definitely potential here for a bit of shuffling of the order as they file through here at the end of lap number 2. Don't forget, these drivers have a limited number of tyres that they can use over the weekend, and it's quite a long weekend. Practice, qualifying and 2 races on the Saturday, and then these 2 races on Sunday afternoon as well. And so as we get further into the weekend, some drivers maybe who have saved a set of tyres could be able to use that to their advantage, and so often it's the races that come later in the weekend that provide the most overtaking. Bit of a mistake there from Nico Verone as he went into the Shell hairpin, just snatched a break, ran up the hill a little bit, and did that cost him a place? No, it didn't, but it definitely drops him away from Oliver Clark, so Clark is now free to have maybe a more concerted go at getting past Bart Horston. Field back over the hill again. Nazim Asman there in second place. He needs to power behind and getting away from Louis Foster. So Foster not only didn't get a good start, but isn't really able to live with the pace of the top 3 right now. This close battle comes back through. Verone just ahead of Pesotto there, the number 99 car. Guillaume, the Brazilian driver for Carlin. And if you want to find who the championship favourites may be for any given season of British Formula 3, you do a lot worse than look towards Carlin. They have this remarkable history of wrapping up championships in the BRDC British Formula 3 series. There's Clement Novalak, who won the championship last year, remember, from Jonathan Hoggard and Ayrton Simmons. They've all moved on, so the highest placed driver from last year's championship that is still with us is Keir Jewis, who finished 4th in the championship, had 1 race win, which came at Brands Hatch towards the end of the year. Keir Jewis running 5th position right now, which is some 3 places higher than he started. There is Caleb Frederick, and he is checking out fastest lap of the race at 1:31.373, which is actually quicker than the pole position time was for this race by about 3/10. So that suggests to me that maybe Caleb has some fresh tyres bolted onto his Carlin machine, which bounces its way over the curbs at the Britain chicane and appears way before anybody else. He was 2.8 seconds clear of Asman at the start of the lap, and it's going up on this lap. He was 2/10 quicker in the first sector. He's on for another fastest lap at this rate, purple in the first sector, and continuing to push hard. So too is Oliver Clark, who is definitely benefiting here from the fact that Nico Verone has dropped off his gearbox. He's under no pressure whatsoever. He can focus all of his attentions on attacking Bart Horston in front of him. That's the fight for 6th position, which bursts into view. Bart Horston in the number 50 car. As I said, the Australian driver racing for Lannan Racing this year is Bart. He's been doing quite a lot of sim racing, as many of these drivers have done over the off-season. Both the British Formula 3 and British Formula 4 championships ran an official esports series over the winter, and many drivers actually competed in both. Mark Horston getting himself a bit of a reputation for audacious round the outside overtakes, which may come in handy at some point this weekend, but right now he is busy defending rather than attacking the cars in front of him, because he's dropped some, well, he's about a second behind Cian Jewis right now. Oliver Clark comes through behind him in car number 62, the Hill Speed driver. Kings Lynn-based driver is Ollie, racing over in America actually in Formula 4 ever since he graduated from karts in 2018. So Oliver Clark, like many drivers, this kind of his first proper go at a full season of car racing on the big circuits. So right now, no change in the order, and on this lap it looks as though maybe Horston and Clark are closing in on Louis Foster and Cian Jewis. I think they are, aren't they? So Cian Jewis getting held up now a bit behind Louis Foster, who has dropped 6.1 seconds off the lead. So you have to imagine that even if he'd been able to hold on to the lead from pole position, he might have struggled to keep Caleb Frederick behind. Frederick is just, he's been unleashed out in front, keeps on setting new fastest laps. There's the replay at the start, and it's hard to tell whether he bogged down or whether it was just slow reactions, but Foster did not move away as quickly as those around him. And because the drivers know how important track position here is at Oulton Park, they're not going to let him get away with that, and that's why not only did Caleb Frederick go through, but Nazim Asman and Ulista Power went up the inside as well. Around the outside at Cascades was Benjamin Pedersen. That clearly didn't work, because he ended up 14th by the end of the first lap, and that is where he stayed. Lots of close quarters jostling for position on the first lap of the race, as you would expect. So as the field streams down through Cascades, we get a good view here of some of the gaps between the various groups of cars, the little battles going on. Drivers kind of pairing off now, aren't they? You've got Foster and Jewis fighting over 5th, Horston and Clark scrapping over 6th place, and then Verone and Peixoto, who are nose to tail for 8th as well. Through Ireland again, there's number 71. That is the car running down in 15th place right now, Manaf Hijawi. Behind him, there's just been a place changed, actually. Josh Mason's got himself ahead of Reese Ushijima, so 16th place now belongs to Josh Mason, the man that, as I said, had an accident midway through the first race yesterday, and ended up in the barriers at Old Hall Corner. This battle sort of refuses to die, doesn't it? Peixoto continuing to apply the pressure to Nico Verone. Just has not been able to prise the door open. It has to be a forceful and committed move, especially at Oulton Park. And the reason that is the case is because these Formula 3 cars, they're proper single-seaters, slicks and wings, they produce a lot of downforce, and that's great if you're in clean air, but as soon as you're tucked up behind somebody, you're not getting that clean air on the nose of your car. That loses you downforce, loses you grip through the corners, and consequently makes it hard to get close enough to have a go. That's the problem. It's not just that they're not trying to overtake, it's just hard to get close enough to make it happen. Replay here, running wide there, coming out of the Knickerbrook corner. That was Sasakor Chimakol, I think, number 79 car. In 11th position, he's chasing after Josh Skelton to try and get into the top 10. Score points as long as you finish in this championship. The top 20 finishers score points. We have 17 drivers racing with us this weekend. Quite a lot of points available as well over the course of the weekend. You get 35 points for winning either races 1, 3 or 4. The reverse grid second race is worth slightly fewer points, just 20, but you earn a bonus point for every position that you gain. So if you start at the back and you gain 5 positions, then you gain 5 extra points as well. So it's quite a generous point system for Formula 3. This battle here, this is getting interesting now, isn't it? Because Verone, as he defends from Peixoto, is bringing Josh Skelton into play, and that was a really late lunge up the inside for Guillaume Peixoto. It didn't work, and look at the momentum, it loses him coming off the corner, and this is Josh Skelton's opportunity to get up the inside into Druid's corner. Not really a traditional overtaking opportunity, and he wasn't quite able to get fully alongside, but Nico Verone and Josh Skelton starting to gang up here in their Chris Dittman racing cars on the Carla machine of Guillaume Peixoto, and as they turn through Lodge closer than ever, you get the sense that something has to give here. 9 minutes left on the clock, but it's 13 minutes or 13 laps, or 20 minutes, whichever we get to first. And if we don't get a safety car, we should get the full 13 laps in, which means that they've still got about half the race to go. Down into Cascades. Peixoto, is he close enough to go on the inside there? Not really. You don't do an awful lot of braking into that corner in a BRDC British Formula 3 car. So they continue nose to tail, and now look what's happening. Chime, Cole and Maney are closing in. So this could soon become a 5-way scrap for 8th position. As Nico Verone, for whatever reason, is just struggling a little bit for pace in this race ever since he made a little mistake about 3 or 4 laps ago now. Dropped away from Oliver Clark and has not been able to latch back onto him. And there you can see how far ahead Clark is. He is still attacking Bart Horston for 6th position. They're the 2 cars just turning through his lots, and then the train arrives, the Chris Dickman racing car sliding around, and again on the inside. No, this time they made contact and off goes Verone. You could see that coming a mile away. Peixotto's going to lose out as well to Josh Skelton now. So in the end, it didn't even gain him a place. He went 9th, he went 8th, and they went back to 9th again. And Josh Skelton says, well, you may have just nerfed my teammate off the road, but thank you very much, because it's gained me 2 positions, and that is an opportunity that you don't want to allow to go begging. So Josh Skelton moves himself up 2 spots into 8th. Peixotto stays 9th, and Sasagor Chimancol is now hoping that Guillaume's got some damage and that he might be able to go through. There was a slide from Verone coming out of the left-hand element of his lobs that put him a little bit off pace going into Knickerbrook, and Peixotto thought that there was room. He tried that a lap earlier, remember, and it didn't work. The second time around, it kind of worked, but not really the way that it should have done. And now he's got his hands full of the Thai driver, Sasagor Chimancol, who is in the slipstream going down Lakeside Straight. Now, Ireland is not where you want to make your move, but it is where he wants to make his move. He gets the run, goes to the inside, Peixotto's offline. They just about leave each other enough room there, but that was not a place that you want to be getting that close together, really. Shell would have been the better place to overtake. The banked hairpin they just went through, but because Chimancol had tried it at the previous corner and it didn't work, he wasn't then close enough to have a go into the hairpin. They've now been joined properly by the silver car there, number 14 of Kush Miney, who gets a good run up the hill. Bart Horston still defending from Oliver Clark, and Horston is sideways. This is where we had the contact a lap ago, which means there should be yellow flags out there, and indeed there are, because not only is Nico Verone's car still stuck in the gravel trap, but Nico himself is still sat in it awaiting assistance from the marshals. He appears fine, but doesn't want to get out of the car until the marshals have gone over to him and told him what to do. So this race already has been fairly dramatic. There is still a good 6 minutes left on the clock here. The driver's, the leader, Caelan Frederick, has just completed his 9th lap of the race, so 4 more laps still to go. Oliver Clark here on your screen, the number 62 car for Hill Speed, still applying the pressure to Bart Horston, but he's been within half a second of Horston all race, but just can't do anything with it. And we've just seen a graphic example there with Verone and Peixotto. We've just seen a graphic example of why it is hard to pass here at Oulton Park, because even when you see that half a chance to get up the inside, the chances are the door is going to close and you're going to make contact. And these aren't touring cars or even GT cars, these are open wheel single seaters, and if you start tangling wheels you will do damage to your car, and the chances are that even if you gain the place you could end up with some damage, which I think is what's happened to Peixotto. Kush Maney there being given a black and white warning flag for number 14 car, so Kush has made good progress in this race actually. He well, actually, I say that, he started 12th and he's now 11th, so I think what happened is he lost ground at the start and he's now slowly starting to pick places back up again. Runner-up in yesterday's second race, Kush Maney, down in 11th, being warned for exceeding the track limits, and is always a hot topic here at Oulton Park, because there are a few places where you can run wide coming out of the corners and exceed the track limits, and in doing so gain time, especially now that they've installed these new concrete runoff areas at some of the track limits hotspots, places like Old Hall, Cascades, Lodge Corner as well. You'll notice coming out of this next corner here there is a concrete runoff area just to the outside of the curb, just there, which the drivers should not be using, and if they do, then they'll be warned about track limits, and then if they continue to do it, then repeat offenders will be given time penalties, which we've seen already coming into play this weekend. So again, Peixotto seems to have got himself together here, so maybe the car isn't damaged, or if it is, he's learning to drive around it, because that was a good lap there actually, and he's pulled back away from Kush Maney behind him, as Piers Pryor and Benjamin Pedersen not that far behind either. There's Nazim Asman, second place, so it is a Carlin 1-2 right now in this third race of the season. And, That is exactly the start that they were looking for. We are, though, on, it would seem, for our third different winner from 3 races. We had a win for Kian Jewis yesterday, the second race won by Piers Pryor, and now Carlin and Caelan Frederick look like they're on the way to a race win in race number 3. 3 different drivers, therefore, are going to win races, 3 different teams as well, which is another sign of just how competitive things are out there this year. It's not unheard of for one team to get the lion's share of the victories over the course of the year, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the way in 2020. There's the visible gap between first and second. It's almost the entire length of the straight now between the last 2 corners, Druids and Lodge, but it doesn't look as though Frederick's going to come under any pressure in this race. Second for Asman, third for DePauw. Louis Foster and Kian Jewis just went through, and then this fight still raging for 6th between Mark Horston and Oliver Clark. Clark can get close through the tighter stuff, but I fear that he may have had his best chance early on in the race when he first pulled up to try and get alongside across the start-finish line. He's never since really been able to get himself back in striking distance. So if he keeps the pressure on, then there is a chance that Horston might overwork his tyres, might make a mistake, might lock up and run wide, and if that happens, then Oliver Clark is going to be straight up the inside without even a hint of hesitation. In fact, though, it's Oliver that runs wide actually through Shell, but you can get away with it through there. It's quite steeply banked from that corner, so you can carry good speed in, and it shouldn't really affect your exit speed too much. Sideways there for Horston. He's been getting a bit sideways in some of these traction zones over the last few laps, so that does suggest that his rear tyres are past their best, and Oliver Clark taking advantage of that, closing back in. This is the other part of the circuit where he's been struggling. Keeps it neat and tidy this time out of Hislops through Knickerbrook. Oliver Clark is not able to do anything this lap, and he is now starting to run out of time. There'll be one more lap after this one. This is lap number 12. It's a 13-lap race in theory, unless we hit 20 minutes first, which we won't. So Caelan Frederick just one more lap away from his first victory of the 2020 season. Caelan was a 2-time winner last year, actually. He won the second race here at Oulton Park last season. He also won the first race at Spa in Belgium. So he had those 2 race victories, and he's going to have another Oulton Park win to add to his tally, but he'd rather like to add a few more to that list as the year goes on. Still some battles further back, though, to be decided. This one in particular, very wide there for Mark Horston. He knows it's the final lap, so if he hasn't been warned for track limits by this stage, then I suppose he thinks he can get away with it, and he's not going to get a penalty. There's Louis Foster and Kian Jewis. Haven't seen much of them in this race, but Louis Foster, after that bad start from pole position, hasn't really been a factor. Former Ginetta Junior and then Formula 4 racer Louis Foster. And both he and Kian Jewis were competing in the Formula 4 iRacing trophy over the extended off-season that we've had. Now they are dicing for 4th place on track. Still the 6th place battle is tied together, and too much curve that time through Hislops for Mark Horston, but just doesn't present an opportunity for Oliver Clark. And with another race still to go later on this afternoon for these drivers, they're aware that any damage they do to the cars now, they're going to really have their work cut out. The team's going to have their work cut out to get the car ready for the final race of the weekend. Through Lodge Corner, though, the checkered flag has already come out for Caelan Frederick. So strong was his advantage over Asman and DePauw. He'd already come through 8.6 seconds before them. There he is, though. Caelan Frederick gets his first win of 2020. Nazim Asman in second, Ulysse DePauw third, and Louis Foster ruining the poor start, but still bags some good points for 4th. Kian Jewis is 5th, Mark Horston in 6th, Oliver Clark 7th, then Josh Skelton in 8th position, 9th for Guillaume Pissotto, 10th for Sassaford Chimancol, and then it was Cush Maney in 11th, Piers Pryor 12th, Benjamin Pedersen 13th, 14th place for Manaf Hijawi, Josh Mason 15th, And rounding out the 16 finishers in the end was Rhys Ushijima, because Nico Verone, of course, was out of the race after unceremoniously being nerved into the gravel trap down at Hislops. And I suspect that might not be the last that we hear of that contact down at that part of the circuit. Celebrations at Carlin, though, and they're back to winning ways. It took them longer than normal to get their first win of the year, but Galen Frederick has been able to deliver it for Carlin, and it's a 1-2 as well, so lots of points in the team's championship there for Carlin. Trevor Carlin, the team principal, will be very happy with how their afternoon has started, and they'll have another chance later on to try and add to a few more trophies to the trophy cabinet. So, an entertaining first race of the day, third race of the weekend for the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship. Galen Frederick and Nazim Asman making a Carlin 1-2, with Ulysses Powell third, Louis Foster fourth, Kian Dewis fifth, and Bart Horston rounding out the top six. Ollie Clark and Josh Skelton, a pair of Brits next, 7th and 8th, ahead of Guillaume Peixoto, provisionally 9th, but as I say, I think there might be a discussion after the race about that contact he had with Nico Verone. Sassenborg Charmancol rounding out the top 10. Then it was Kush Maney and Piers Pryor, 11th and 12th, Benjamin Pedersen 13th, 14th for Hijawi, and Josh Mason rounding out the top 15. And as I said, Rhys Ushijima, was 16th with Nico Verone out of the race. So, lots of good racing there in the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship. Jack Nichols says that he's watching from home, I believe. Good afternoon, Jack. Hope you're enjoying your afternoon watching the action here from Oulton Park. Plenty more still to come as the day goes on as well, not just from the British F3 Championship, of course, but their final race of the weekend is due to kick off at about 3:30 p.m. local time. So, if you are a fan of this very popular single-seater championship, then there is another race to come. It really is one of the places to be. If you want a career in single-seater racing, if you want to get to Formula 1 ultimately, then Formula 3 in the UK is still seen as pretty much an essential step on your motorsport ladder, and that's why if you look back through the list of previous champions and race winners in this championship, an awful lot of them do find their way up to the very top levels of the motorsport world. So Oulton Park then, I was going to say looking resplendent in the summer sunshine, but there is a bit of cloud around actually this afternoon. I don't believe it's going to rain. It very, very rarely rains in this part of the world, so I tell people, but it is getting a little bit overcast now. Hopefully the rain will stay away. Well, I believe what we can do in the meantime is have a look at some of the highlights from our third BRDC British Formula 3 Championship race of the weekend. It all happened at the start, really, with a terrible start for Louis Foster. A good getaway for Galen Frederick, though. He led the field through Old Hall Corner, with Nazim Asman and Ulysses Powell coming through with him, dropping Foster down into 4th position. Powell briefly challenged for 2nd place, but Asman was able to make that his own by the end, whilst Piers Pryor gained 3 positions on the opening lap from deep in the field. Pretty impressive start to his race for the Race 2 winner yesterday. Eventually the field did settle down single file, and one of the best battles involved the Chris Dickman car. Nico Verone defending from Guillaume Peixoto for most of the race and trying desperately to stay within the top 10. Sassenborg Charmancol was pushing on, round wide, coming out of the Knickerbrook corner, whilst the Carlin team watched on as their drivers headed to the top step of the podium. Their third driver, though, was involved in contact with Nico Verone. Verone out of the race. Peixoto lost the place to Josh Skelton, who gained 2 spots in that incident. But Peixoto was at least able to avoid losing any further positions. So it was a Carlin 1-2. Galen Frederick got the win with Nazim Asman second. More action from the Formula 3 Championship later on this afternoon.